Don't forget to subscribe. Sonic, Vector Man, Aladdin, Golden Axe, and even Madden. How could we forget those masterpieces that passed through the wonderful Sega Genesis? Who in his time will rise to once hold the market in his hands? Today we're going to talk about his best and worst years in the industry, exploring his best-selling games and what eventually led to his downfall. Let's dive into the rise and fall of the Sega Genesis gaming console. But before starting the video, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button to stay updated for the next video in this series and more content like this. Without further ado, let's start the video. First, it's important to mention that before the iconic Genesis, there were two other consoles produced by Sega, and I would like to take a moment to briefly give these pioneers their flowers, the first being the SG-1000 and the second the Master System, which could go by its other name of the Mark III. The SG-1000 coming out in 1983 and quickly replaced by the Master System in 1985. Now typically console would stay around for at least 5 to 8 years, of course, with some outliers and some exceptions, in this case highlighting one of those exceptions. Now I won't cover these unless highly requested, mainly due to the fact that the Genesis was and still held as the king of all consoles released by Sega, but it's important to mention why they were quickly replaced for the Genesis in 1988, and why they only stood around for 2 to 3 years each, way below the average life of a console. The introduction of the SG-1000 will go on to start the third gen console war, and in the other corner would be Nintendo, releasing the Famicom, aka the family console, but we will go on to refer to it as just NES, aka Nintendo Entertainment System, which still was a mouthful but a little bit less corny, and if you ask me, a little bit less easy to market to teens. Now, regardless of its name, the NES will go on to dominate Sega's first two consoles, outselling it an enormous ratio of 10 to 1. Upon release, the Sega Genesis was pushed out with games such as Space Harrier 2, Ghouls and Ghosts, Golden Axe, Super Thunder Blade, The Revenge of Shinobi, and Alter Beast. Now, Sega would still come to realize that these were not going to be enough to get out of Nintendo's shadow, because they would go on to release Super Mario Bros. 3, and Mario and Luigi once again for another year with smoke on Sega Pack, especially being that Nintendo had the rights to most arcade games which just had taken a big hit and the arcade era was coming to an end. So what now? Well, Sega will go on to produce a storm of sports games using the likeness of famous celebrities to mainly give those pesky plumber a run for their money. Games such as Pat Riley's Basketball, Arnold Palmer Tournament Golf, James Buster Douglas Knockout Boxing, Joe Montana Football, Michael Jackson's Moonwalker, but most famously helped push the first ever Madden game, being Madden 88 or John Madden Football, which did not feature an actual NFL team yet, but who cares? The goal was to beat the crap out of Mario, and unfortunately they will fall short, still not enough to outsell their rival, and basically struggling to market himself around the world. Going around and telling each country you go by a different name like some secret agent will definitely not help you, Sega. And in fact, let's pause to see these horrible names. Going as Mega Drive in Australia and most part of the world, which is, okay. Super Game Boy in Korea, and I kid you not, Super Aladdin Boy in India, and this was probably due to the popularity of Aladdin at the time, and of course followed by the game they released, but this wouldn't see any success yet. So 2 for Mario and 0 for Sega. You gotta try harder, Sega. Using the name and likeness of Michael Jackson or his iconic dance move was not enough to outsell Mario, or even PlayStation, who will eventually sneak their way into this console war, but we'll cover that in another video. So maybe it was time to create an actual mascot to help push these consoles, especially in North America where they were doing so poorly. But of course, nothing happens unless somebody first gets fired, so why not send the CEO of your North America division on a permanent vacation and hire someone with some ideas. Stepping in to fill this role was a man that goes by the name of Tom Kalinske, who had the idea of cutting the price, which I failed to mention in this video so far purposely, because no one will agree with the price coming out at a whopping $189. No. Which is equivalent to $457 today. Anyways, he also wanted to market the console even more, even put a team together to develop games that appeal more to the American audience, and lastly, the golden idea, to switch out Alter Beast and bundle the game with Sonic instead, which had just been created by a competition held in the company. And Sonic will go on to be praised by critics as one of the best games ever made, and helped for the first time outsell Nintendo by at least a 2-to-1 ratio, and even pushing out other competition due to how popular the game became. And it couldn't have come at any better time because Nintendo hadn't pushed out their newest console, the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, or better yet the successor to NES, which encouraged people to buy the new hot game until Nintendo released. But even so, Sega had amassed a total of 250 games compared to Super Nintendo 75 total. Sonic will even go on to push out 6 sequels to help outsell Nintendo till the arrival of Donkey Kong Country in 1994 on the Super Nintendo, which will help turn the table back in Nintendo's favor. But until then, Sega would rule as the top dog in this console war. With the release of PlayStation 1 would trigger the start of Gen 5, Sega would go on to release his 5th console, the Saturn, to compete, and choose to focus primarily on the future, tossing the Genesis on the side for now, while ignoring the fact that Gen 4 still accounted for 64% of the market, which means by the time they would come to realization they would not have enough inventory to meet demands. But Nintendo, on the other hand, would stick to Gen 4 because they also had a very successful handheld, which was the Game Boy, and we all know how popular Pokemon was, so there was no way that was gonna fail. But all in all, the Sega Genesis sold a total of 31 million console, with Sonic being its best-selling game at a total of 15 million copies sold, followed by a sequel at 6 million, before selling the license to another company who would go on to sell millions, but not in a sense of no way competing in the market, more of just selling backed up inventory, and this will mark the end of the Sega Genesis console. Now, it's easy to argue that the Sega Genesis just evolved into the Sega Saturn, which in some sense is continuing, although it wasn't as successful. But if you wanted to consider that idea, I wouldn't be mad at you at all, as everyone is entitled to their own opinion. But anyways, long gone but not forgotten. Make sure to comment any game that was your favorite on this console, and I'll catch you in the next video. Don't forget to subscribe.